So, okay, this is like the fifth time I'm going to be watching this clip, and I'm just going to speak my truth as they go through this finger pointing, where it's just like, do you not see the three fingers pointing back at you? Again, I'm not sure what the Evergreen reference is, and I think I forgot exactly who this couple was pertaining to our conversation, Joe. But thank you for this video. So let's dissect this.
We've been thinking a lot about courage this week and about compliance and about really at some level this just little excerpt from Catch-22, which you'd remembered and I found in our book here, was prompted by our talking about how so many of the renditions of the resistors,
That's the first time I've ever, I mean, like, this is now the fifth time I've ever heard anybody refer to the other side as the resistors. So just pointing that out, the resistors. Courage. We've been talking a lot about courage and compliance. Okay. Just, okay.
Those who do not comply, those who say, no, I'm not going along. The life...
The thinkers? The resistors?
that is portrayed of them tends to be one of darkness and paucity and
it's one of austerity
and sort of the image that comes to mind. It's sort of like a grayscale. One of darkness and paucity and
it's one of
austerity.
Okay, pause. Like, this is what I'm talking about. Just reading comprehension. It's just like paucity, austerity. Okay, these are totally two new words for me. Define paucity. I forgot the word. Paucity. Define paucity.
Here's the definition of paucity. The presence of something only in small or insufficient quantities or amounts. Scarcity.
What? The darkness and the scarcity and one of austerity. Define austerity.
Here's the definition of austerity. Sternness or severity of manner or attitude.
Okay. Why did you just say that? Damn it. Like, why? So let's go. Oh, my God.
Talking about how so many of the renditions of the resistors, those who...
The renditions of the resistors. Oh my God, rendition. So like the version, like the portrayal. This is what I'm talking about, Joe. This is what drives me crazy about freaking people with vocabulary like yours. Only you use it in a way where I don't mind doing this. What was I looking for? A performance or interpretation, especially of a dramatic role or piece of music. The practice of sending a foreign criminal or terrorist suspect covertly to be interrogated in a country with less rigorous regulations for the humane treatment of prisoners. Oh my God. Just, okay, let's not get stuck on the rendition of the resistors.
Do not comply. Those
who do not comply Yeah. So you're just repeating. Why don't you just say those who do not comply? Those
say, no, I'm not going along.
are these like three different groups of people? Or is she just like me, myself, and I? It's just okay.
The life that is portrayed of them tends to be one of darkness and paucity
Scarcity?
and
One of austerity.
austerity.
First of all, the life that is portrayed by who? I would say I'm a resistor. So my life is not dark at all. So okay, I'm not the one portraying it like that. Just to make a point. And it's a life of scarcity and sternness. That was what austerity means. So it's a life. The life portrayed of the resistors is one of darkness, scarcity, and one of sternness. Correct?
And sort of, the image that comes to mind, it's sort of like a grayscale, liquid of unknown provenance dripping from ducts onto you. You can't ever quite
Oh my God, Joe.
austerity and sort of, the image that comes to mind. It's sort of like a grayscale,
It's sort of like a grayscale.
liquid of unknown provenance.
Liquid of unknown provenance
It's dripping from ducts
dripping from ducts.
onto you. You can't ever.
What is this lady saying? Is she just, like I said, is she just saying words just to freaking sound smart, Joe? Or is she consciously choosing these words? Oh. And again, this is why I appreciate you, Joe. Like, I mean, this is the point I'm trying to figure out. Like, I have no idea why. Liquid of unknown provenance. So provenance is like a deck. Oh my God, Jesus. Sorry, Joe. Define provenance.
Here's the definition of provenance. The place of origin or
Quite get to be one of darkness and paucity and
It's one of austerity.
austerity and sort of, the image that comes to mind. It's sort of like a grayscale, liquid of unknown provenance.
A liquid of unknown place of origin or earliest known history. I don't know why she had to throw in liquid. Grayscale. I'm not sure if she's throwing that in there in the sense that like, this is what I'm talking about, of just how people talk, not only on like TV or in the media, but just like doing. And then I read this for, it's intellectually stimulating and emotionally affirming to find people who can and will discuss any topic without prejudice. It seems, I don't know. That is finding the truth no matter where it takes you and having an open mind and willing to learn. This is where my laughter is like killing me inside, Joe. Like,
Dripping from ducts onto you. You can't ever quite get warm or dry. There are very few comforts. It's a dreary, dark choice, but if you're that kind of person, then you go.
clearly this lady is this kind of person. Again, this is what I was talking about. Whatever they're saying about, like, these are the negative qualities that I see in these people, like, psychology and just all my research tells me that this is them unconsciously expressing, this is what I hate most about myself. Like I said, this is where the finger, like, I'm not exactly, like I said, I forgot how this couple like pertains. I'm trying to remember, and I'm like beating myself, and forgive me, but I don't know. I don't know if these are like respected friends. I'm confident that I can make a claim that these are not people you hang out with.
And we wanted to talk about the other way to view this.
Right, and in fact, the reality.
Again, when I first heard this, the other way. Okay. So yeah. Tell me my way of viewing this is what I thought they were going to go into. But of course,
So there's, of course, a great deal of effort invested in spooking people into imagining that if they say what they see, then terrible things will befall them, and that keeps a lot of people in line.
Yeah.
And it's
You
not that
don't want rats crawling over your toes while you sleep, do you?
I don't know. I don't think.
where did that come from? You don't want rats crawling on your sleep? Like, no, I don't. No, like, wait. What are we talking about? Like,
So,
But I mean, that's the sort of thing that's the imagery, right? Like, okay, you step out of line, and before you know it, that's the kind of life you're going to be having.
is this the propaganda in Idaho, or is this like a thing that's like in other states? Please remember to answer that in the reply email, Joe. Like, these people who talk about fear tactics, you don't want rats crawling up your sleep, do you? No, I don't. Like, I'm dying inside from this.
right, and indeed, in the current environment, I should point out that when you say resistors, there is this hashtag resistance thing that I don't want any part of.
Oh, I don't even know that.
Well, it's
I'm sure you don't.
It's a throwback to the election. In fact, the 2016 election. But the idea is it's a branded kind of resistance rather than people who are actually resisting the orthodoxy. In fact, it's become a kind of orthodoxy. But nonetheless, there is this interesting.
Okay. There's this hashtag resistance thing that I
don't want any
part of.
Oh, I don't even know that.
I don't want any, and this is interesting why I love to do these like closed captions, because it's just like, I don't want any partner. I don't even know that.
Well, it's a throwback to the election. In fact, the 2016 election. But the idea is it's a branded kind of resistance.
It's a branded kind of resistance, meaning like they made a brand out of it, or like they were just marked with, this is how we view you. Like, why did they choose the word? Why did he choose branded kind of resistance? Like, this is just like how I look at the people who are trying to talk to me. Like, first of all, yeah, I would have stopped this conversation. The drips of ducks, like quack quack, like Joe. I hope you're finding this humorous.
Rather than people who are actually resisting the orthodox.
Okay, hold on. Okay, so
a throwback to the election. In fact, the 2016 election. But the idea is it's a branded kind of resistance rather than people who are actually resisting.
It's a branded kind of resistance rather than people who are actually resisting.
The orthodoxy.
The orthodoxy? The orthodoxy of what? Oh my gosh. Define orthodoxy.
Here's the definition of orthodoxy: authorized or generally accepted theory, doctrine, or practice.
Why did you just say that?
To the election. In fact, the 2016 election. But the idea is it's a branded kind of resistance rather than people who are actually resisting the orthodoxy. In fact.
So the accepted theory. Okay, so what he's saying is it's a resistance that just doesn't accept that Trump lost the election in 2016. Isn't that when Trump won? What is he talking about? Like, what resistance? So that he's talking about Trump supporters? That's the 2016 election branded made him a branded resistance rather than like the actual resisting the orthodoxy. So I am to understand that, yeah, I remember 2016, we have Hillary and we have, which I was just like, how are you even thinking you have a chance, girl? You know, and the fact that Donald Trump had the balls just to be like, don't you remember you talking about him? Like, we want to see your document. It's just like, immediately I remember when I heard Trump just like check her like that. I was like, yo, like, I think, yeah, Trump for president. So, yeah, if that's the branded resistance, okay. Well, the orthodoxy, am I resisting an orthodoxy? I mean, essentially, like,
It's become a kind of orthodoxy, but nonetheless,
it's become a kind of orthodoxy. This is the thing. This is where, like, I look at these people who, like, have 325,000 subscribers, you know, and this is just the jargon that they're filling people's heads with. And I admit, you know, like, just working, like, it's just, this is the result of what happens when you just, like, start getting a following, and then your head just starts filling up with all this air. And instead of relieving that pressure when you can, you know, and staying, you know, down to earth and humble and, you know, logical, then I hope that you become like somebody like me, I guess, would be a good example. But then, like I said, any person who gets a following, this is the temptation that comes from a following that, again, I feel the Bible just kind of illustrates. Like, Jesus was somebody who had that following, but granted, his following really blew up after he died, you know, like, so I don't know. That's just kind of where I'm thinking with this.
there is this interesting phenomenon where if you actually do first principles thinking, you call it like you see it, and you do so publicly, things do happen, right?
Which is okay. This phenomenon. Yeah, I guess hearing somebody running for president just check another opposing candidate like Trump did. Yes, I would consider that a phenomenon. I have in my entire adult life never, ever, but always wanted to. And especially when I saw Hillary, like, oh my God, just hearing her talk about Obama with so much praise. And I'm like, yeah, we told you he was like that. Like, you didn't believe it. Like, it's just, that's the discredit where I just looked at Hillary and I'm like, you have no chance. And you're the Democratic favorite. Uh-oh. You know, so then that's where him checking her checked me to think like, holy crap, this guy might actually be president. Like,
and not all of them are good, to be sure. And we
exactly. And now we know after one term of his presidency that, yeah, when you speak out and do that, bad things happen.
have lost quite a number of friends in recent times over calling it like we see it.
Okay. I can relate because my brother, I mean, I can't relate personally, but I know people who can help me relate to this. Is just my brother's best friend. The guy, he's just like a little brother to me, Nate, was my brother's best man when I refused to be my brother's best man at his wedding. So this kid and my brother, they've been best friends for, pretty much all their lives. And then all of a sudden, Trump steps in and just like ruins everything, like this. And so if this guy's making a claim, or if they're making a claim that they've lost a lot of...
Be sure, and we have lost quite a number of friends in...
Quite a number of So maybe this is a result of you just like... This is like calling these people out, Joe. I don't know. Like... I don't believe your claim this number. So now are people in your town just scared to like give an exact number? They just say, quite a number. I hope you appreciate the comedy.
In recent times, over calling it like we see it with respect to issues related to the pandemic.
Guess what else, though?
The other thing, though, what they don't manage to convey is that this call.
Okay, well, so what is the subject of these people who are calling it like the phenomenon of these people who are just calling it like they see it, and then it doesn't always lead to a good thing. It could be bad. And then he references how they've lost quite a number of friends because of how they called it like they see it, or they call
causes a kind of upgrade in your social life because we have lost quite a number of friends in recent times over calling it like we see it with respect to issues related to the pandemic.
Guess what else, though?
The other thing, though, what they don't manage to convey is that this causes a kind of upgrade in your social life because the people.
Exactly what I'm talking about. This is where everything goes astray. The minute you ditch your friends and sell them out for an upgrade in your social life because the people
who publicly chastise you in such circumstances are actually not high quality. They may seem like it under normal circumstances, but when the chips are down, they won't be there. And that's actually a very important thing to know. We learned this at Evergreen.
So clearly that's them, right? Yeah. So apparently these friends that they lost said something that thing though what they don't manage to convey
is that this causes a kind of upgrade in your social life because the people who publicly chastise you in such circumstances are actually not high quality. They may seem like it under normal circumstances, but when the chips are down, they won't be there. And that's actually a very important thing to know. We learned this at Evergreen too.
Right, but let's just be very clear. And I know the viewers who are longtime viewers who are
actually a very important thing to know. We learned this at Evergreen too.
Right.
This is where I don't know what Evergreen is. So yeah, again, if you could just make a note to answer that. Was it like a event that they did? But
let's just be very clear. And I know
like literally, Joe, I'm at a point where I just would love to come to Idaho, eat your barbecue, and then have you take me over to these people so I could just freaking give them like the you're lucky I'm full of barbecue because right now I just want to wipe my barbecue fucking sauce fingers all over your face, lady. Sorry for the language.
The viewers who are longtime viewers who are coming here because they find something of value will not have.
Anybody else watching this video, I only came here because my good friend, my respected confidant, Joe Sevi, brought me here. I found nothing of value except for the fact that it only perfectly illustrates how I feel these people are retarded. They are slow. They are just dumb. Yeah. If I had my dictionary, that dictionary where, oh yeah, here are the exact definitions of what we were talking about as Americans. Retarded? Yeah. Look up Dark Horse.
This error, but I could hear what you just said as suggesting that if you get critiqued, you know that person isn't doing you a solid. And
If you get critiqued, you know that person isn't doing you a solid. And again, just somebody who has been critiqued a lot, who, yeah, it wasn't a solid, but it's just like, yeah, I was being critiqued because I was trying to book a show at this place. So yeah, if they tell me like, yo, this joke doesn't work, my advice would be like, no. You're not doing me a solid.
Isn't worth having around.
No, great.
This club, this opportunity is just not worth having around. Okay, yeah, all right. Pretty much I followed that advice. So, all right, I guess I find myself on board, kind of.
Your friend will critique you. They will do it carefully. But there's, no.
Isn't doing you a solid and isn't worth having around.
No, a great friend will critique you. They will do it carefully.
What were we talking about? Like, normal circumstances. When the chips are... So this all started with them talking about resistors, this phenomenon of people who are just calling it like they see it, who are now, like good or bad, like causing these two people specifically to have lost quite a number of friends recently because of how they called it like they see it on certain issues regarding the pandemic. And then they find out that, like, what they don't tell you is when you lose, like, friends, you gain a social following. And then they talk about, these are tips for, you get an upgrade in your social life because the people who,
publicly chastise you in such circumstances are actually not.
Who call you out in public when you're not, like, prepared on a podcast, all scripted. Again, I just kind of take offense to just this wording right here, Joe. Like, they don't know me, but it's just like this is how people get, like stocked down and murdered. Like, oh, it's Tuesday? I'm free till Friday. I got time. Let's, thank God, like shows like Dexter. Thank God, like, Dexter. I mean, season 2's coming back of Dexter. Wow. That is kind of a scary connection. Let me just shut up here for a second.
High quality. They may seem like it under normal circumstances, but when the chips are down, they won't be there. And that's actually a very important thing to know. We learned this at Evergreen too.
Right, but let's just be very clear. And I know, the viewers who are longtime viewers who are coming here because they find something of value will not have made this error. But I could hear what you just said as suggesting that if you get critiqued, that person isn't. Isn't doing you a solid and isn't worth having around.
No.
What? So she's trying to just take a moment to clarify this for the viewers who aren't the longtime viewers who might have misunderstood this. So this is her explanation to specifically for people like me who are just a new viewer. And then this is how she tells
me. A great friend will critique you.
So she's telling me, no, wait, he said, critique you. Again, geez, this is like...
The viewers who are longtime viewers who are coming here because they find something of value will not have made this error. But I could hear what you just said as suggesting that if you get critiqued, that person isn't.
No.
So right now she's critiquing him.
Isn't doing you a solid and isn't.
So I'm not doing you a solid critiquing you right now.
Worth having around.
No.
Not worth having around.
A great friend will critique you. They will do it carefully. But
there we go. There's the scripted. This, this is where it's just like, this is all organic. It's just like, no, this is all rehearsed. I know a performance when I see it. I know that she probably called him out, but I don't know. I don't know. A great friend. Like you, whatever this lady in class.
There's this public distancing thing that is of a very different sort. And we saw this at Evergreen. And of course, the first time we learned this lesson when this.
How about the error is first begun by explaining what the F is evergreen. That's where the error is coming from. It's not my understanding of how you judge who's a great friend versus somebody. No. Like,
happened at Evergreen. There were lots of people who we had thought were our friends who turned out not to be up to the challenge, but a great many.
Again, now it just makes what happened at Evergreen? Like you said, when my dad got into an argument, it's like, all right, you got me, I'll buy a ticket. Like, what happened at Evergreen?
People emerged, and the point was the trade was.
So apparently, whatever happened at Evergreen, this is the milestone or the phenomenon that just got them into this 325,000 following. This is what I'm understanding, Joe. I mean,
very positive, right? The upgrade in the quality of people that surrounded us was amazing.
Turned out not to be up to the challenge, but a great many people
emerged, and the point was the trade was very positive, right? The upgrade in the quality of people that surrounded us was amazing.
What is this word upgrade? Upgrade. The upgrade of people. So essentially, what he just said right there is just, anybody, even if I was a friend of these, I'm like, yo, what am I, like, the base model now? Like, what are you talking about, this upgrade? Like,
what we would say at the time, in fact, was that there were surprises in both directions, and we've begun asking some of our new friends, some of the people whom we are coming into contact with. Okay, when you spoke up, when you became public on whatever topic it is, that
I feel like I'm going to speak up on this topic, just to let you know.
You are now persona non grata in your former social circles.
That are now persona non grata in your formal social circles. What? Define persona non grata.
Here's the definition of persona non grata: an unacceptable or unwelcome person.
Why did you just say that?
Did you find, what did you find? We try not to lead the witness. We try not to tell people what it is that we already think we know. And
this is your free will. It's your
what people say over and over again is it is a reaffirmation of what we ourselves found, which is that there are surprises in both directions, meaning that some of the people who we thought would be loyal as friends, even if they didn't agree with the conclusions, were not, were cowardly, were disloyal, did not act as friends. And some people with whom we actually didn't know that we had any affinity or affiliation at all stood up and acted courageously and boldly.
This is where it's just like, that is not. Unless it changed. Define courageous. Not deterred by danger or pain. Yeah, the definition hasn't changed. So the people didn't even know who these people are. It's like, I'm not like loyal or disloyal yet. Thank you for being courageous.
As friends, even if they didn't agree with the conclusions.
And so their friends are just cowards. You guys are cowards. I'm going to go find some brave people like me. I'm going to get shot.
We're not, we're cowardly, we're disloyal, did not act as friends.
Okay, hold on. They were disloyal?
Friends, even if they didn't agree with the conclusions, we're not, we're cowardly, we're disloyal, did not act.
Is that correct? Is that right? Or were disloyal? Is it were or word disloyal? Because to me, that's two different things. If they're disloyal by through their words, just saying, and then talking smack behind your back, then that's a whole different thing. So now here's
friends, and some people with whom we actually didn't know that we had any affinity or affiliation at all stood up and acted courageously and boldly because they.
Okay, so apparently this is something that happened in the event, and that their friends critique them in a no manner, rather than being a great friend who does it carefully. Okay, I understand that. And then amongst all that, these people who they just had no affinity or affiliation, as far as just like, obviously you know about us on YouTube or heard, like, that's the affiliation. So aside from that, these people are standing up being like, who are you to talk to these people like that? Is that an accurate interpretation of what went down at Evergreen? God.
Too could not bear to observe an injustice or, authoritarianism flying under the banner of anti-racism or science or whatever it is. Yeah. Right.
So,
okay. So again, I can't make any comments. This is me telling myself, Charles, don't make any comments about Evergreen until you figure out from Joe what the banner of anti-racism or science or whatever it is, right? Another note, Joe.
I guess what I would say is, you could simply count heads, right? And frankly, I don't know what the net is. Our social circle grew a lot after Evergreen. That's not necessarily what's taken place in modern time.
Wait a second. Hold on. Is Evergreen the funeral service you were telling me about, where you were freaking shoulder to shoulder with these people? Is this what this is? Okay, that changed. Okay.
But the point is, if you do so waiting for quality, then what you find is that actually you discover incredibly interesting, dynamic people who are excellent at careful thought, right? And so anyway, there is this kind of upgrade phenomenon that is not famous. People do not know that, that this is part of the equation. And so
there is a question. I mean, we do hear from people, and I think this is justified. Okay, but you guys, us, we're findable. And indeed, so many people reach out to us that we don't.
We're findable.
Right? And so anyway, there is this kind of upgrade phenomenon that is not famous. People do not know that, that this is part of the equation. And so
there is a question. I mean, we do hear from people, and I think this is justified. Okay, but you guys, us, we're findable. And indeed, so many people reach out to us that we aren't able to respond to most people who do. And so I'm sure, we miss lots of people who.
If you want to take a bet, if I respond, I mean, I'm sure I'm not going to get just a bet, friendly bet.
Who are amazing, who reach out to us, who we just never follow through with because we don't have
too many.
Yeah, we don't have.
I guess this is just we apologize in advance that we are already expecting some kind Charles Payne to come up and be like, hey, no. And if we don't respond to you, Charles, just know that it's because we just have too many other people. It's not because of anything that you said. They're already trying to create a safety net.
The time for it, we don't have that. Time is finite. But for those of you who don't.
Correct. Time is finite. And this is what they choose to contribute with their time. Okay? So let's just make it.
Don't have a way. How do people find one another? And I guess that's, what we were trying to say is being courageous is not inherently going to bring you a life in which rats are running over your toes in your sleep. But how is it that people find the community of other people like them? Who don't have a way. How do people find one another? And I guess that's,
Kiora?
What we were trying to
internet dating sites
say is
the telephone book.
Being courageous is not inherently going to bring you a life in which rats are running over your toes in your sleep.
Being courageous isn't gonna be as terrifying as they made out to.
sleep. But how is it that people find the community of other people like them who are not seeing the world the way they're being told to see it?
Well,
The resistors?
I think what my impression after Evergreen was, I wish, if there were to be, a minute of supernatural stuff, right? And you could pick what the supernatural thing was. The ability to know who actually had the characteristics that would render them strong in adverse circumstances, and who...
What? Like, is it the fact that they're just trying to not put anybody, like, under the bus or call out any people, that this is just render them strong in adverse circumstances?
Seemed like they might be that person, but was destined to disappoint. This is the most important piece of information you could have, right? You do not want to discover, once you're in the foxhole, that the person who talked a good game actually has no courage and will sell you out, right? You don't want that. You want to know ahead of time who really has the depth of character, so that what you encounter on the surface is actually indicative of what's below, and you don't know that until a severe challenge. And so, in essence, there is no substitute for the high pressure test of the system. So I guess my point is, I believe that anybody who stands up will discover this. They will find out that many around them who they think are, and who are more than decent under normal circumstances, will fail the test under dire circumstances.
Well, so two things. I hope I remember both of them here.
These people are in for a huge awakening if they're just at this level of, like, realization of the distinguished fan versus friend versus YouTube. Like, oh, Joe, don't get there.
We have found, when we are anonymous in the world as we're moving about, and increasingly that's not necessarily the case. And frankly, I mourn the loss of anonymity, because
I mourn the loss of anonymity. When did anonymity die? This whole problem with trolls is completely because of people just standing up in anonymity. I mourn the loss of anonymity.
for me as an
So, okay, for her, meaning, like, what, after Evergreen, now they got this huge following, now she's getting, like, recognized, like, she mourns that loss of anonymity? Because, yeah, that sucks. Like, when just people, like, you don't even know, recognize you for something where it's just like, what? Like, Dave Chappelle did it perfectly. He was like, I gave up $50 million because I couldn't go outside of my house in Ohio, or even take my kids to Disneyland without somebody coming up like, I'm Rick James, bitch. Like, or, like, he was just like, I just love connecting with people. And so when I was faced with that choice, I said, I'm going to Africa. I don't want to do this anymore. Like, that's the integrity. That's the moral compass I'm talking about, Joe. It's just like these tests that come up like, hey, you going to go with temptation? Everybody's gone with temptation, so nobody's going to fault you if you do that. Or you're going to be a resistor. Dave Chappelle is a resistor. And I admire him for that.
behaviorist, a lot of what I learn about people is by going out into the world and not just observing, but interacting with them as just...
Again, that's exactly how you learn. You go out with anonymity. Just, you're nobody. You have no... And she says it, coming up. You have no views out in the world. You just are like a child. And whatever anybody comes up to you, it's all going to be improv. It's not an agenda-based fake news type scenario where it's just like, oh, anybody who comes up to me, it's like the chip on the
a human being who doesn't already have stated opinions in the world. And we get recognized and approached, and it's lovely. We've yet to be approached by anyone with whom it wasn't lovely, but I always feel a sort of sense of like, that means that I can't be learning in the way that I would be learning from here, because I don't know to what degree this is a show, right? But when we have, both you and I do this in somewhat different ways, and largely in overlapping but somewhat non-overlapping, like retail venues, ask people, just show any little indicator of not being totally on board with whatever the dominant paradigm is right now. And this, in summer of 2020 here in Portland, it was largely about the responses to the protesters that became.
Okay, so they're in Portland. So that automatically tells me that Evergreen is not the shoulder-to-shoulder event you were talking about.
Rioters every night, and it was about the shutting down police, and it was about Black Lives Matter, and increasingly it's about lockdowns and outdoor masks and vaccine mandates, and it is.
See, this is where the timeline's just like, what point are we talking about? This is a span of like 2 years, so like.
Amazing how many people seem not only willing but eager to take the smallest hint that maybe you were not an automaton, that maybe you haven't swallowed the dominant thing hook, line, and sinker, and will then just talk.
Maybe you are a resistor, and will then just talk. You'll just talk like a resistor.
Will talk, and sometimes a little bit, but sometimes it seems like they go on for hours about what it is they're actually seeing and what they think it means and how.
In the form of stupid words like you.
How bad the public policy and the uniform public response seems to be.
Yeah, actually.
That maybe you haven't swallowed the dominant thing hook, line, and sinker, and will then just talk. Will talk, and sometimes a little bit, but sometimes it seems like they go on for hours about what it is they're actually seeing and what they think it means and how bad the public policy and the uniform public response seems to be.
Again, maybe I got lost in my critique of this, but like, who's she talking about? Like, I don't know. Like, I hope she's.
Yeah, actually, I'm sure that this has been understood by those who have analyzed authoritarianism.
Yeah.
But one of the.
Okay, so here, I'm sure. I say truly. I'm sure. So this is like a cue that he's.
Actually, I'm sure that this has been understood by those who have analyzed authoritarianism.
Yeah.
But
Okay. I've analyzed a lot of things. Let's make sure. Define authoritarianism.
Here's the definition of authoritarianism: the enforcement or advocacy of strict obedience to authority at the expense of personal freedom.
Okay, so yes, I am someone who has analyzed authoritarianism.
one of the hallmarks has to be when you coerce a population into compliance.
Yes.
The pressure on individuals is immense, and the desire for those individuals to find somebody that they can actually be safe in talking about what they don't like about it. In other words, there's a danger in confessing, actually, I'm not on board with this, right? Even if I'm complying, it's not because I think this is a good idea.
And again, here's another cue psychologically. Where did this cat come from? This is signs where like, this is somebody trying to grow. So, like, if you could help your people, like, just recognize these little cues, okay? Like, okay, he just said, I'm sure. Like, these are cues I pick up where I'm like, oh, finally, you're adding some content to this. And then I recognize, oh, where did this cat come from? So immediately these are cues I look for where I'm just like, okay, now this person is somewhat being their true selves. You can tell how the body language just completely changed.
Yeah, but people cannot people will not in general be public about this because the hazard of saying the wrong thing to the wrong person is too great. So if you put out a little bit of bat signal, yes, I do have a cat who's crawled into my lap here. If you put out a little bit of a bat signal, right? And I mean,
here's the bat signal. In
fact, this is where we are, I would say, on masks, right?
Where we are? Who's we? You and her? Or we the people? I speak about we. So, okay.
The mask thing has clearly become about compliance. And I will say for the 1000th time, we were extremely early on the idea of masks. And
so the
failure of the evidence to...
It seemed obvious.
It seemed...
We were compelled that it seemed obvious.
Right.
And that the U.S. Surgeon General and the WHO and, Fauci and everyone else was like, don't wear masks, that would be foolish. And then they came out with like, no, actually that was to preserve the PPE for the healthcare workers. That seemed obvious to us, and I think we were wrong.
Right. I think we were wrong. I think there is a small amount of good. It's not...
Is this like an apology?
Enough to justify mandates. It requires... A, certain kinds of masks. B, it requires that they be worn in very particular ways. And the point is, it's just not justified. But it's been a marvelous policy from the point of view of discovering who will
they agree to this?
Right, who will go along with mandates that make no sense. And it's been just, really picture perfect with respect to taking the message, be frightened, and transporting it everywhere. It rides around with every citizen who has to put on a mask or walk around with it. We get these reminders constantly, there's a pandemic. These people are a danger to you, right? And now, the thing is...
Here's the thing. It's all about word choice. If I were president, I would have announced it like, hey, there's going to be a huge mask shortage here in a little bit. So if you don't have a mask, go out and grab one before we run out. Because it's going to be the next coolest thing. Don't freak out.
Masked, the unvaccinated, the uns are dirty and dangerous.
The uns are dirty and dangerous, Joe. I pray to God that the uns are dirty and dangerous. Really? Really? I wish I was an un still. Ugh.
Yeah.
And perhaps evil.
Right.
I'll show you evil.
You and I are compliant mask-wise. We don't...
Okay, again, look how the body language changes. Cat leaves. Just pick up on these cues.
We live in a state and a city, a state, and a coast that is largely
You live in the
masked.
United States.
Right. So we put them on. We're not flaunting...
Inside retail establishments, except when we're eating.
Well, no. Hold on. We are compliant with the requirement to wear a mask. The harm, while there, is small enough that we're not going to ignore the rule. However, so we put them on. We're not flaunting.
Inside retail establishments, except when we're eating.
Well, no. Hold on. We are compliant with the requirement to wear a mask.
The requirement by the retail establishment, which is required by the state, which is required by the city, which is required by the coast, so pretty much, yeah, you are compliant with
arm while there is small enough that we're not going to...
Yeah. And then also, this is a smaller space. It's not like going outside. So yeah, the risk, we can see there is a risk. So we will keep our masks here. Okay?
Ignore the rule. However, there is no rule that says you have to play along with the idea that this makes sense, right? And so when one sits down at the table and takes off their mask in a restaurant as if this is like smoke, that if you get below it, you can breathe again. One is perfect.
What? Smoke? It's just like, yo, we're at a restaurant. How am I going to... Did you guys not think of that? I can't take my mask off to eat And then, yeah, that's when the guy's like, oh, it's a genius idea. And then on freaking QVC, hey, get your mask with the zipper where you can just keep it on and have a drink and eat and like, da, 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 da. Like, there you go. In order to be a success in America, you find a need and you fulfill that need.
Free to evidence, yes, I'm complying, but I think this is nonsense.
Well, I think it's an
My example of those people would be the people who just wear the masks as chin straps. Like, yeah, I got it on. It's just.
Oh, sorry. I was in a booth in a restaurant in Austin, actually, with a friend, and he said, "Wow, this is like the 1 square mile in all of Texas."
With a friend? What friend? Because it sounds like you lost a lot of your friends. So, again, are these upgraded friends? Are these base model friends? Are these just like the same friends who were outdated, who you call upgraded, who are really just like, you know, mint condition versions of the friends that you had before that you just, you know, ditched so easily for your petty temptation to gain this following? Just all confessed. All right, it's all coming full circle.
This is where masks are required, and he actually had not come with one, and I was like, oh god, I have so many here. Take one of mine. And we sat down, and because we're in a booth, he said, oh, it's not about the smoke. It's actually there's the invisible force field that comes across the booth, and as long as everyone else stays outside of our force field, we have no chance of spreading the thing that we don't have.
Right, the thing that you don't have.
Yeah.
Right, and the paradoxes are so many, when you have...
What is it? What was this friend? So was she like, yeah, you're right. I don't need these. I just, again, because of the way that she talked about her friends. What?
The waiter comes over wearing a mask, right? And you're sitting there not masked. And actually, my sense is to the extent that this does any good at all, we're more or less morally obligated to put them on at that moment to protect this person, right? It is only because I don't think that this is a very effective remedy that I don't think.
No, the waiter is morally put in the position to put the mask on so that the people they serve aren't in danger. He's got it flipped. So he's taking the praise and the credit.
This is a glaring error because
it is a glaring error.
And that's what I was doing until
that is
I started
what you're
to
doing.
see all of this.
And I don't think you see any
all of this work suggesting that they're not actually particularly effective.
Yeah, you're not actually.
But anyway, yes, a little bat signal that suggests I don't think this policy is all that well thought out is liable to put you in contact with others who have those doubts and are likely feeling very isolated about them.
And that's how you become the Dark Horse production.
Really, there's a smugness that some people are willing and eager to
define smug.
Here's the definition of smug. Having or showing an excessive pride in oneself or one's achievements.
Define smugness.
Here's the definition of smugness. Excessive pride in oneself or one's
themselves.
Yeah, and really, there's a...
Again, this is where she is about to judge the other side, the resistors, the uns. And this is step one, I guess. I feel like this is like in the preface. But okay, so here we go. Here's her confessing to us what she hates about herself.
There's a smugness that some people are willing and eager to convey.
Yeah, I hate that.
And then it's not there's everyone else, but that is one of the ways. That is one of the dichotomies that I am seeing now. There's the smug.
Define dichotomy.
Here's the definition of dichotomy. A division or contrast between two things that are or represented as being opposed or entirely different.
Okay.
And then it's not there's everyone else, But that is one of the ways, that is one of the dichotomies that I am seeing now. There's the smug,
Yeah, you just did it
who
right now.
largely, are actually functionally enumerate, I think. And get your nose out of my water.
She is
Again,
not talking to me. For those of you listening to the podcast, she's talking to the cat.
This cat is an emotional support animal.
Yeah. And who say things like follow the science, but don't actually, wouldn't recognize a hypothesis if it smacked them in the nose.
Christians?
And then there's sort of everyone else. And yes, there are degrees
The uns? The resistors?
to which the everyone else have conclusions that they're certain of or not certain of or have investigated them as.
And this is what I'm talking about, Joe. The everyone else, like we were just talking about the resistors. She made a clear point. Who the resistors are. And then the uns. She made a clear. And then everyone else. Why not just say the rest of us?
Which is possible for first principles. But there is a degrees to which the science out of my water.
She is not talking to me. For those of you listening to the podcast, she's talking to the cat.
Yeah.
She's talking to herself.
And who say things like follow the science, but don't actually, wouldn't recognize a hypothesis if it smacked them in the nose.
Big Bang Theory.
And then there's sort of everyone else. And yes, there are degrees to which the everyone else have conclusions that they're certain of or not certain of or have investigated them as much as possible from first principles. But there is a degree of uncertainty. The smug are inherently certain. And if you're certain right now that the thing that got handed you by the CDC or MSNBC or anyone is simply true on account of it got handed.
Or that you pulled open in a freaking Motel 8 and pulled it out of the drawer saying this was left here by the Gideons.
To you, then you're not doing your thinking for yourself. And frankly, your smugness should evaporate right away because it's based on nothing good.
Yeah, that was pretty much the smartest thing. Brett Weinstein and Heather Ehang. Ehang. Well, there you go. There is Charles Chaplin, the People's Chaplin's full critique of. That's all I'm gonna say. Thank you, Joe. But seriously, guys.